Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We are here for Chemist Warehouse. Head into Chemist Warehouse for great savings. Let's get into it. Para v the Eels. Now, what a, surprising way this matchup will come together, because if you had said last year, Para versus Eels, end of the season, you would say it's an absolute blockbuster. And now it still may be a good game of rugby league, but geez, the steam is out of this game, Smithy.
Well, it is after that result last week, and pretty much after they got beat by the Broncos and Mitch Moses suffered that, cheek or eye socket injury. I think everyone sort of thought, wow, this might be Para done, and it was after that loss to the Roosters on the weekend. So mate, isn't it crazy? Like this is a team that played in the grand final, and now it's they're not going to they're not even going to make the top 8 this year. So, a little bit deflating, knowing that there's not a whole lot in this one. Apart from, the Panthers, they're trying to, maintain that spot at number 1 after this weekend. So, big in for them. Brian To'o back on the wing. Still a few missing, though. Mitch Kenny in particular. Scott Sorensen, I should mention him as well. He's been fantastic. Isaac Tungo. Any word on Tungo when he'll return? He's been out for a little bit.
Yeah, I actually think that now they may rest a lot of players in the final round, but I think because this season is so close, I actually reckon Ivan Cleary is staggering the resting of players.
I gotcha. So maybe some this week and then the last round as well.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if we'll see everyone rested. I don't even think we'll see Cleary rested due to the fact that obviously he had all that time off.
Yeah.
But I think he might be staggering his resting, because I do remember listening to an interview with him a while ago, and they were talking about the fact that these boys, their energies are great, injuries run's been good, and they actually really do look at ways to rest players, intermittently throughout the season so that they can get to the end of the year fresh and ready to go.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just thinking around Tungo though, whether he'll play, whether he'll be ready to play next week, because he has been injured. He's been out for a little bit. So, and he was, before he spent this time off the field, he was unbelievable. He's one of the best centres in the competition through that middle parts of the year. So, but as I said, Brian To'o back, plenty to play for Penrith. I think for the Eels, they're just trying to find a little bit of form with the last couple of games that they got left. I think Penrith. I think Penrith at home win this one.
Yeah, I mean, you could see last week that the kicking game of Moses, even though Dylan Brown, he worked his backside off and had some pretty good moments, they just, no kicking game whatsoever, really. To the standard you needed to be at, especially to play the top-tier sides.
Yep. It's a good point, mate, because if you're not, we just spoke about Mitch Moses and, his heavy involvement with his kicking. He kicked for 1,000 metres earlier in the year, but he's pretty much their main man. And when you're not used to that role as a main kicker, you're not used to the workload of it. You're not used to getting yourself in right positions and the pressure and all that sort of stuff. So it's a massive part of the game now. And you look at all the teams going well; they've got a very dominant kicker. So with Moses' injury, that took away a very strong element of the Parramatta Eels game, and it's going to be under a lot of pressure this week again by Penrith. They're probably the most consistent side at kick pressure. So, there's going to be times where they're going to be put under a lot of pressure on the last tackle, and if they don't get it right, then they're going to be turning the ball over in really good field position for Penrith.
Where do you think the Eels went wrong? What? I know they've had injuries and key players out, but we've seen other teams with way less rosters, show a lot of fight, whereas the Eels, they just have been nowhere near where you would expect them to be.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say they didn't play with effort. I just think that they've lacked consistency this year, or all year. And even last year, they battled a little bit, then they come good towards the end and went on a bit of a run. I just think that, they're a side that when they play their best footy, they are a very good footy team. A very good footy team. They're not just a side that you think, well, they're a chance of winning. If you knew that Parramatta were going to turn up and play their absolute best, you're getting fired up about the way they're going to play, their performances. But they couldn't find that consistency for the entire year. They just couldn't. And even within matches, like they go through a little period where they play really well for 10 minutes, but then the next 10 minutes, like they can't hold on to the football. And then when things don't go right for them, they start chasing the easy points. And you cannot do that in this game. Not at NRL level. If you start chasing easy points, the reverse happens. You start making errors and you start giving opportunities to the opposition team, and they put you away.
Well, I look at them, and as it's been a very disappointing year, but I'm still just excited for them next year. Like when you go, okay, Dylan Brown, Gutho, Mitch Moses, Junior Paulo, Ryan Madison, RCG, Sean Lane. Like this side is still a really, really good rugby league side. It just hasn't come together for them this year, and so I'm still very bullish in the fact that they can definitely make the 8, even the top 4 next year. I don't think that their roster is just completely fallen apart, but I do think that they've got to go out in the market and really find a bench that can offer more impact and be more consistent.
I think an area that they've struggled with this year too has been dummy half. I know they went with Josh Hodgson, but he's struggled with injury throughout the year, and probably didn't return the way that I think they thought he was going to. On this show, I tipped him as a smoky for Dally M at the start of the year, if you can remember back that far. But I think the loss of Reed Marnie. Now I know Reed Marnie hasn't played the same footy that he at the Dogs this year that he has at Parramatta, and I think that's more so a bit of a reflection of the squad that he's playing around at the Dogs than what he did at Para, but I think they've just missed that style of player at 9. Throughout the better part of this year, I think if the loss of Reed Marnie has had a huge effect on this footy side. Look, I might be wrong, but I just think that it just seems as though something's been missing at that dummy half position for the Eels this year.
Now, on to the next game. Warriors v Dragons at Go Media Stadium. Tamai Martin is extended to squad for the first game since breaking his leg round 6. Lomax returns to centre from a shoulder injury. It is the only change for the Dragons.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. I want to give the Dragons a rap. I thought they were very good against Melbourne last week.
Agreed.
Very good. It's one of the best games and performances that they've put in this year. Probably a little bit unlucky to lose that match. Like they were up 18 points to 4. 18-4. In the early stages of that game, and Melbourne they were good enough to claw back and win. It took a couple of really strong performances from Jerome Hughes and Eli Katoa on the right side of the Melbourne Storm footy team to peg back that lead. And maybe if those two guys weren't there or didn't play that level of performance on the weekend, Dragons might have upset the Storm. So there was a lot of good things I think that the Dragons can take away from that game. What they need to do is, and this is the challenge for every NRL side, is to replicate that performance. Replicate that performance. That's what the good teams do. They don't just put in one good performance every couple of weeks or every month, or like once a month. Every week they turn up, no matter where they're playing, home or away, no matter what opposition they're playing, someone above them, someone below them on the ladder, they turn up and give the same level or same standard of performance than what they did the week prior.
I've got to ask you, because it's one of the strangest questions in rugby league because it's kind of just died down, but is Ben Hunt at the Dragons next year? Looks like it.
Well, it seems that way given how quiet the chat has been around his availability for the Dragons next year. Like after that, I think there was a discussion that we were told about with Shane Flanagan meeting with Ben Hunt, and maybe that settled a few of his concerns, answered a few of his questions about where the Dragons as a club were moving in the future. So it's sort of like it's all gone very quiet, mate. And as
I just haven't heard Benny come out and really confirm yet. You know, like
no.
it's,
Well, there's been
very
no confirmation, has there?
Yeah, yeah.
There's been no
Very, very
confirmation
strange.
that it's not. Well, that he's still thinking that way. That's a possibility that he could move on. But, yeah, I think at this stage maybe he will be staying.
Well,
I say that with no confidence.
Yeah, same. But then I look at it, I go, Bud Sullivan, you know, he's moved on. And you go,
Yeah.
well, okay, if Bud Sullivan's
Who
moved
else?
on, then, mate.
Who else is there?
It could be a disaster. It could be a disaster. I hope Benny stays, though. I really do. Because I do think Flanagan is going to really bring something to that squad.
Yep.
You know, obviously, he's a premiership winning coach. But there are some shining lights. Like, for example, shout out to our boy Blake Laurie. He hasn't had an error in 20 games.
Oh, fair income.
Yeah, 20 games, no errors. The big fella,
Big
and
Blake.
he's been playing the best footy of his career.
Well done.
Unbelievable, the big fella, up and
Yeah.
down, just getting through his work. Absolutely love. We're going to head to a break. After the break, we've got more rugby league to preview. Welcome back to the Captain's Run. Let's get straight into it. Dolphins v Cowboys. Cowboys playing to keep the season alive. 8 p.m. at Suncorp Stadium. Hamiso Tabuai Fido returns at fullback. Nikorima moves to 5'8". Lemuelu and Kenny Bromwich return from concussion. Lukey replaces Nanai, who is out with a shoulder injury. Smithy, how do you see it playing out, mate?
Yeah, Jeremiah Nanai, he just can't seem to stay on the paddock this year, whether it be suspensions or injuries. So a big blow, but Helam Lukey, he's a great replacement to come in, the big back row. But well, it's pretty straightforward. We mentioned this earlier. It can be that for the Cowboys, they just got to win.
Yeah.
They just have to win, and they're at short odds to do so. But they travel. The Dolphins have been very brave all year. Unfortunately, they're just I think the depth of their squad has really sort of come back to hurt them a little bit, particularly in the back end of this year where they've had some longer term injuries, a couple of suspensions to deal with, and it's a challenge, mate. It's a long year, and now facing a few quality sides, particularly desperate footy sides, it's been a little bit hard for them. But I'd like to think that the Cowboys get this done. They weren't great. They were far from their best last weekend, but it's must win. There's no other way to put it, and I'm sure they're having discussions. I'd like to think they're having discussions about that their attitude has to be right on the mark this week against the Dolphins, if they want to keep their season alive. Like they've got no other sort of motivation other than saying we must win if we are any chance of playing finals football.
Speaking of the Dolphins, how would you rate their year? Now, I the start of the year was incredible. They've had heaps of injuries, but we're heading towards the end. They will most likely finish 14th. How would you rate their year?
Oh, I'd rate it a success. There's no doubt about that. If you're going to give them a mark, it's definitely a pass mark. Like I'd say at least a B. Given we'll put it this way: what was everyone's expectations of the Dolphins this year? Everyone said wooden spoon. Pretty much everyone said, "Look, mate, if they win 4 games, like good on them." But they exceeded everyone's expectations from the start of the year, and they had us in the first 10 rounds. They were sitting in the top 4, Kempy, and everyone was just marveling at this incredible turn of events that was unfolding in front of us. That the Dolphins, they were just this remarkable footy side that everyone was up and about with, and it was fantastic. It was great for our game. It was great for our competition. It was good for rugby league up here in Queensland to have another competitive football side. But as I said, I think the lack of depth in their footy team has caught up with them. I can only imagine what's going to happen next year, though. Like, it's a very exciting time. You're talking about exciting times for clubs, like particularly the Dolphins, given they have Herbie Farnworth coming. They've got Tom Flegler coming. I'm probably missing someone there. Jakey Avarillo coming up as well. So, when you're adding 3 guys of their caliber, they've got Flegler, State of Origin player. They've got Herbie, international player. And Jakey Avarillo is a wonderful young player who's on the up. they're going to be super competitive next year and hopefully pushing for a top 8 spot. So to answer that question, I think it's very much a pass mark, given with the talk at the start of the year, the depth of their squad, and they've got no marquee player. Well, they proved everyone wrong. Like, you don't need to have a marquee player to compete in this competition. And I think the injuries that they copped, if they stayed healthy, let's just say they stayed healthy and they've had to only use 20 players this year, 21 players, but they're probably pushing for a finals berth over the next couple of weeks. But a lot of suspensions, a heap of injuries. They've done well to do what they've done, so it's a pass mark for me. For the Cowboys, I think they've very much underachieved. At the start of this year, I tipped them as the premiers.
Yeah.
Given what they did last year, mate. But their season is still there's a glimmer of hope. There is a glimmer of hope. They just need to turn up and win this week.
Yeah, like on the weekend, I thought they really had a lot of effort. They were quite grindy, but they just lacked creativity in attack. And I wanted to ask you, the Storm, if you could levy one criticism at the way they played throughout the last 20, not the 20 years, but let's say 2012, whatever, was they were a grindy side.
Yeah.
Now, when you're a grindy side, sometimes coming by points is tough. Did you ever experience I guess periods where you were trying to find those points because your defense and everything else was always, essentially the best in the competition?
Yeah. Mate, there wasn't really any stage other than there was a period in 2012 where we lost 5 in a row. So we weren't defending great, but we could not find the try line to save ourselves. Like, we just couldn't. Like, nothing was happening for us. And, I think if you ever speak to Craig Bellamy about that 5-week period, like, he was scratching his head thinking, I've run out of answers. I just don't know what to do. But, we just fell back to what the game plan that worked for us, continue to work hard at training, and it turned. We had a big win against Penrith, and then our fortunes turned and we didn't lose another game for that year. But for the Cowboys, like, when you're not finding points, okay, like, that can be fixed through training and reviews and all that sort of stuff. But they're not defending though. They're conceding way too many points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have things to work on with your attack, but when you're conceding, they conceded 32 last week against the Sharkies. So that's, for me, like, that's the concerning thing. Like, it's okay to be missing points, but when you're giving them up so easily, that's a concerning thing. Then you go back to the previous game that they played against the Broncos. Like, the Broncos didn't play their best footy. Like, it was an entertaining game. It was end-to-end stuff, and there's a heap of line breaks, and it was all fun to watch. But they gave up 30 against the Broncos as well. So that's where you need to go back to the drawing board and really fix some issues with your football. Is when you're conceding, when you're conceding over, let's say, 14 to 16 points every week, you've got some issues with your defense, whether it be attitude or technical system issues, and you got to address them.
Yeah, because it seems like the last few weeks, it seems like they win field position, they win the tough battle, they don't get points, and they get disheartened, and they just fall out of the game, which is, as you said, you've got to be better defensively. Now, on to the next game. We've got the Storm v. the Titans. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, I've got I think the Storm, and the really interesting sort of factor around this game on the weekend is whether Ryan Papenhuyzen will play, Kempy. So he's been named on an extended bench. Now, I don't know whether Craig's playing some mind games with everyone here and maybe just trying to, I guess, protect Ryan Papenhuyzen rather than naming him in the 17 or the 18. He's been named on an extended bench, but I think the decision needs to be made that it's either this week or he doesn't play NRL this year.
Yeah, wow.
That's my point of view. I know if I was still playing and Ryan Papenhuyzen was coming back from the injury that he was coming back from, and Craig come to me and said, Smithy, what do you reckon about Paps returning? I'd say, mate, put him in this week, see how he goes. If you think he's not ready now, then I don't think we change our lineup after this week. Because they've got the Broncos, mate, okay? probably not probably not the best game to have someone returning after 14 months out of the NRL. Okay, now like he's been back for 2.5 games. He's played 2.5 games of Queensland Cup. Now, Queensland Cup is a great competition, but it's another step up. It's another big leap up to play NRL. Now, Paps he's played high quality NRL before. We all know that, and he's a wonderful player, but he's been out for a long, long time. I think this is a perfect opportunity for a couple of reasons. They're playing at home. Okay, so it's a familiar place for him. He trains there every day. He's got all of his supporters behind him. And they're playing the Titans, who are under strength. Okay, they've got a handful of players out with injury. And I just think it's a perfect opportunity to get him back in and just to see how he goes. Now, Craig Bellamy, he made the comment last week, right, to say that, look, I don't even know whether he's ready to go or not. And if he's not ready to go, then I'm not going to force him to come back and play NRL. And that's great. That's the coach looking after one of his players, which he has always done. But if you've got any thoughts about playing Ryan Papenhuyzen this year in the NRL team, I think it's got to be this week.
And so is your thought process, you give him 2 weeks, see how he goes. If he struggles, then you make the call for game 1 of finals?
I think so, mate. Yep. I think put him in this week. I think bring him off the bench. Okay, so you start Nick Meaney, okay, who's been playing really good footy for the Melbourne Storm. He's been one of their more consistent performers over the last couple of years, which is, you probably say it's a little bit unfair on Nick Meaney too, giving up this position. But it's Ryan Papenhuyzen. It's, if he's fully fit and playing well, he gets the number 1 jersey. But I bring Papenhuyzen off the bench, see how he goes, speak to him after the game and say, mate, where are you at? How did you find that? Do you think you can both physically and mentally get through the next 5 weeks of football? Because you got the Broncos next week in Brisbane, and then we've got a month, hopefully, of finals football. Honestly, you need, and it's the one strength that the Melbourne Storm do have, is that they are very honest and open with each other with these discussions. You just have to, and Craig is very good at it, you grab Paps after the game and say, mate, give us your thoughts. Be honest with me. Do you think you can play first grade and get your job done and not let your teammates down?
All right, we're going to head to a break. After the break, we continue our round preview. Come back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. Time now for the Roosters v. the Tigers. How do you see this one playing out, Smithy?
Well, Sammy Walker's back. Kempy.
Wow.
When was now we got to get Tommy on because he is the Roosters man, and he said to us, look, hey boys, spend as much time as you want on this Roosters-Tigers game. Sammy Walker, Tom, when was the last game he played?
It was at Cronulla loss back in, I think, round 6. They lost 22-12. And then, obviously, he didn't play on Anzac Day against the Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
He had that AC sprain the week later in New South Wales Cup. And then he's played the last 2 weeks in New South Wales Cup for the Bears.
Yes, and played quite well.
Yeah, I think he played better last week, like 2 weeks ago. Had 3 try assists, and then I think he just did his job last week. So 2 80-minute back-to-back performances, and I can just see Kempy just smiling.
No, what I find funny is a few weeks ago he was saying, I'm not even going to support the boys for the year. Now they've won a couple of games and he's their most
back
loyal
on.
fan. Yeah, he's back on the bandwagon.
Mate, the hope is there. The hope is there. I'll be there Sunday night. So,
I will be honest though, and Smith, I'd love to get your thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay, so he got dropped because they felt that he wasn't the man to get the job done at the time. He's a very young player, and obviously he will become that guy. No doubt on that. But then Drew Hutchinson basically plays the best 2 games of his career. And now he may not be in the side, and they're bringing in a guy that they dropped at the start of the year.
Yeah.
I just would love to know the thought process. What do you reckon, Smithy?
Drew is probably sitting there scratching his head just going, what's happened?
What?
I thought I've played really well.
Yeah.
And they've had a couple of really good victories, the Roosters.
Absolutely.
But, look, I just think that they probably think it's the right time to get Sam Walker back in. He was their first choice 7 at the start of the year, and things happened at the club where they thought it was the right decision to change the direction that they were heading in. But I don't know, maybe Trent Robinson, he's got a feeling that they're going to be playing finals, and that the best decision for the club, if they are playing finals, is to have Sam Walker back there playing 7. But I must say, there's been a complete change in the way the Roosters have played over the last couple of weeks. I was at the game on the weekend when I watched them play against Parramatta, and I'll tell you what, like their defence was back to some of the best defence I've seen from them in I reckon in the past 2 seasons, Kempy. But their attack seems to be a lot more fluent. They seem a lot more on the same page as to where or the direction that they're going with their attack. Interesting to see. Well, I was going to see how they go this week without Tedesco, but they've got a world-class number one in Joey Manu going back there to take that spot. But I think Roosters, similar position to the Cowboys. Again, it's a must-win for them against the Tigers. The Tigers are brave. We know that. Appy goes back to hooker, so maybe that makes him an even stronger footy side now that he's back in his preferred position. The interesting comment I heard from Trent before the game last week, and it was actually, we were off air and we were just having a quick chat to him on the field before the game, and he said he was actually really excited by the scenario that they're in. And he just spoke about how, well, you know, their fortunes are in their own hands. So, like, they can't rely on anyone else other than themselves. So he reckons, like, he goes, mate, I get really excited about this situation. I'd much rather be locked into the top 8 and knowing that we're playing. But, like, there's no question marks around what needs to happen now for them. They just need to go out and play good footy and give themselves a chance of winning these footy games. So pretty interesting to see or to hear, you know, that come from the coach. And as I said, I think he's quietly confident about them going on to play finals, and I think that's a reason why Sam Walker's back in the lineup.
And they're one of the few teams with the roster that is absolutely undeniable that they could be even a top 4 side. So, yeah, exciting times. Now, Raiders v. the Broncos. Broncos head down to Canberra to play at GIO Stadium. White named in the reserves as he aims to return from a hammy injury. What do you reckon about this one, Smithy?
Well, I'll let you kick off, mate, because this is your side. And I know we have had conversations about Canberra, right, and their ability to just grind wins and drag people down into the, you know, a different level of footy that they enjoy playing. Are you at all concerned about this one?
It's such an important game, and obviously, you know, all games are important, but like here's to, I guess, accentuate the point. You look at Panthers, and let's say Panthers drop this game this weekend. Somehow, some way. We go, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, they're going to be fine. Let's say Panthers drop the next 2 games. We go, whatever, it's fine. Whereas the Broncos, they've still got so much to prove, and also they need to be heading into finals footy confident that they are the team they think they are. They don't want to be going into the first game against either the Warriors or the Storm going, you know, oh, like, was it just a good run we were on? And are we as good as we think we are? If they do go into that game one, because the problem with the Broncos in finals footy is they're an inexperienced finals footy side. So they need to be flying as they head into it. And that's why this game is just so important. Not just to get a win, to get a good, solid win. You don't want to go down there and win 36-30 or something. You want to go down there, complete at a high percentage and win, you know, 16-6 or something along those lines.
So important, really. Like, so Jock Madden comes in for Adam Reynolds. What is the news around Adam Reynolds? Like, I seen a report in the paper up here this morning, Kempy, that Broncos are thinking of possibly resting him, not just this week, but next week as well, to have him tip-top for finals. But speaking about like an inexperienced, you know, half going down to Canberra, what's Jock Madden's most important job on the weekend for this footy side to go and play well?
I mean, I'd be going down there if I'm Kevy, and I'm sure he would, but I'd be saying to Jock and the rest of the team, boys, there's literally no excuses. Jock, are you that much worse of a defender than Reno? Probably not. Like, they're probably just as good as each other. Okay, do we have Reno's kicking game? No. But if we just defend our asses off, we have the squad to score points. We absolutely have the squad. We prove it with the Cowboys when we beat them up in North Queensland without Reno, Jock Madden playing. So there should be no going into this game of like, oh, we don't have Reno and we're a better side with Reno, but I would just be all focused on defence. Now it's very hard. The Broncos just love to attack, but
Mate, they are
points-
defending well though.
Yeah, exactly. The points come for the Broncos. They could literally, all their backs could play poorly in regards to the attacking side of things. Their forwards are dynamic enough to score points. So that should not be the focus going into against the Raiders. From the Raiders' perspective, I know they had a win on the weekend against the Dogs, but if they want to fire a shot finals footy, this is their test. This is where do the Raiders really sit in the finals footy picture, and this is a test for them.
Yeah, well, it is, mate, because you would think that at some stage, like, I think Canberra's going to finish in the bottom half of the top 8. So at some stage, if they want to go all the way, they're going to have to face Brisbane. You would think, whether it be in a prelim or in the grand final. That's going a bit of a drawing a long bow a little bit, saying Broncos will be in that prelim or the grand final. I know you'll like that, Kempy, but
thank you.
But you would say so. You know what I mean? I think everyone out there watching the footy at the moment would think, well, Penrith and Brisbane most likely to be a part of a prelim and or a grand final. So what I'm saying is, this is a good test for Canberra, as you said. Like they get an early look at what's ahead for them. And, every team heading into finals, they're going to back themselves to go all the way. They're not thinking, well, we're just going to, hey, boys, let's just come into the finals. And we're making up the numbers. Let's just do our best. It's a completely different season. And I know in the past it's results have shown that you need to finish in the top 4. Well, you know what? Like we've seen over many, many centuries, like records are there to be broken.
Yeah.
Like I if I was bottom 4, I'd be saying, hey, but let's be the first side to win outside the top 4.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to head to a break. After the break, plenty more rugby league to talk about. Welcome back to the Captain's Run with Cameron Smith. We've got the Doggies versus Seagulls. Quick one on here, but what do you reckon, Smithy? Doggies versus Seagulls?
Yeah, well, mate, I think Seagulls. I like the fight that they've shown in periods of the games of late, and they've still got they've got a classy skipper running around who's playing some great footy still in DCE. So, I think Manly. Although the Doggies, I think Manly. I just think the Doggies, they give up too many points, mate. They give up too many points. I haven't seen enough from them defensively this year to suggest that they could beat Manly.
Now, Knights v the Sharks, absolutely cracking game.
Wow.
4 p.m. Are you kidding me? 4 p.m. on a Sunday?
Yeah, third consecutive Sunday match for Newcastle at home, and this will be like they will be turning people away with a stick. Kempy,
mate,
they'll be
good.
trying to
So
bust
good.
into this ground, and they'll be like, "Get out!" We're at capacity. They'd probably be more than capacity. I'd sneak in if I was up there, but anyway, mate, game of the round, 100% it's game of the round.
Yeah, for sure.
Huge game for both clubs who could, well, Sharkies potentially off the back of maybe, other results going their way with the Storm, they could climb into top 4. But for the Knights, mate, they could keep climbing. I just don't know. Does it really matter like who you play? If you finished bottom 4, does it really matter? Like either way, you're sudden death. But I don't know. They might want to finish in a certain position. I don't know. But Newey Knights, they've found a groove at the moment. They're going for 8 in a row. It's incredible. Incredible. Like, mate, you think back to the middle part of this year where
mate.
I reckon I got a big red pen and just went straight through them. Straight through them. Just went, nah, gone for 2023. See you in 2024. But look, they're back in a big way. And I think they can do it. I think they can. I think Sharky's a favourite for this one. Might be. They might be slight favourites for this one. But I think Newey can make it 8 in a row, mate. It's incredible.
Mate, honestly, I'd go further in saying, not only did I put a line through them, I thought that the club was in turmoil.
Oh, really?
I thought that not only that was their season over, I thought that the club was basically going to have to, move on from the coach.
Yep.
change recruitment officer. Like, I genuinely thought there was going to be wholesale changes because you have to remember Peter Parr, I think it is, Cowboys.
Yep, Parry,
He came in mid-year.
footy manager.
And at this point, I'm thinking, okay, well, he's the guy that's going to bring in the change because it's not looking so great currently at the Knights.
Yep.
And then, maybe it's been his leadership, I'm not sure, but ever since around that time, maybe about 4 or 5 weeks after, they've been outstanding. And I've got to give a massive rap to Adam O'Brien.
Yep.
He was under the pump. Proper under the pump.
Yep.
And I do believe that the Knights should re-sign him. I do believe that it should be probably a 1 or 2 year deal. I don't think it should be a long-term deal. I think he has earned, I personally believe right now, he's earned a 2 year deal because not only does he go into this next year, having done what he did this year, he seems a much more mature coach. Even the way he handles press conferences and certain things, he's had some personal life things go on that's, some really devastating family stuff. So he's managed to bring it all together. And I think that he's going to go into the new season with a set direction to head in because this year, is KP playing 1? Is he playing 6? That changes your whole recruitment. I think it's good signs for the Knights.
Yeah, it is. And you talk about Peter Parr going to the footy club and things changing. There's no doubt that he would have made a huge positive change to that footy club. But I think a lot of it to do with it, particularly the footy, is Kalen Ponga playing fullback.
Oh man,
I think he's just going back to his position that he loves playing rather than 6. I still don't know how that come about or whether it was. I don't know how it come about. I don't know, but I think we all know now that he is an out and out number 1, and the freedom that he's playing with. I know that, and you got to give a rap to the guys on the inside of him, like they're helping provide him or produce, situations for him that he's able to do his thing. There's very few players in the competition that have the talent, the natural ability of Kalen Ponga with the way he moves with the football, the pace that he's able to carry the ball, particularly laterally across the field and get around defenders. But, they're doing a lot of great work inside him to give him those opportunities to go and do his thing. And he's doing it really well. He's doing it as good as any fullback in the competition at the moment. Like you throw Reece Walsh in there as well. It's why his name's being thrown up to be a part of this Kangaroo side at the end of the year. Whether he goes away on that 4-week tour. So I think that's a huge part of it. They all seem very confident. They're all on board with what they're doing and what the coach has asked them to do. And I will correct myself. The Newcastle Knights are favourites for this one, which they should be. Coming off 7 consecutive wins and playing at home, they're favourites, and I think they can do it, Kempy.
Mate, let's head to a break. After the break, we're going to wrap the show up.